We are sorry for that. Little bit of a disconnection. It's chemistry, guys. It's chemistry. It's get hot here. Okay, let us continue from where we left. Now, remember, siyaku limiting reactant, we excess reactant, but besibabuka graphically. So we've seen ukuthi layer excess ayisebenzi yonke kusebenza only a part of it bese uyawubala reactant. Le limiting isebenza yonke izifike kubani ku zero. But now we have this terminology, impure substance. We have this terminology, impure substance. Now, this is very important. This is one of the most critical elements of a chemistry yakho. Because uma une reactant, that reactant can contain impurities kuyona, and when it contains impurities, then those impurities will not react. So it's only the pure part of the reactant that will actually react in a particular reaction. But let us define it. An impure reactant is a substance used in a chemical reaction that contains unwanted substances. Unwanted substances. That contains unwanted substances. So these are the substances that will not react in this particular reaction. Look at it this way. Let us say you are a soccer player and with striker you are wearing jersey number 9. But you go to play a game of soccer and you bring what? You bring gloves for goalkeeper. Now, when you will not use those gloves when you play soccer, ngoba impurity leyo nto kuwena, it's what you don't want. As unemba 9, you only need amakoko akho, ugqoke ijezi lakho bese uyodlala ibhola. But you brought gloves with you even though they will not react in that particular reaction. So that's how you can just look at it umukhuluma nge-impure reactant. Now, in an impure reactant, it is very important to note that in a chemical reaction, it is the pure part that can form products. It is the reacted part that can form your product. Ile part reactile kuphela, kodwa ipart reactayo, ipart enjani? Pure. You see the link between the two. It is the part that will react that will form your product, and the part that will react will have to be the pure part of the reactant. So meliqale ibe pure qala izo-reacta ke njengoba i-pure. But what if I don't have into a pure? If you don't have into a pure, it then simply means you don't use that mess. Don't use that mess. You can't take a mess that has impure and you work with it as if it will all react in a chemical reaction. But we'll do examples so that you can understand. When an impure information is given, you are given an information of an impure reactant. Grade 12. Do not use that and perform my calculations akho. Uzosebenzisa ekugcineni uma usubala percentage. Ngobani? Ngoba it's not yonke leyo mass that will actually react. So when you are actually given an impure reactant, wena kumele wenze njani? Kumele ubale ipart that is pure. But the question is, sizoyibala kanjani ipart that is pure? And that's what we'll talk to right now. Calculating the pure part of the reactant. Okay, one thing to remember is that from the mass of the impure, there will be part of it that is pure, and there will be impurities. Now, if you are given an impure mass, we call that the mass of the sample, and the pure part that we're looking for, we call it the pure part of the substance. The percentage part of the substance that will react is a concept known as percentage purity. But why percentage purity? It is because it's only the pure part that will react. So you are trying to find ukuthi out of the totaling nayo engabe in percentage format kungakanani okureactile. So you may find ukuthi 90% will react or 85% will react. It will depend on the particular calculations that we are dealing with. Kodwa into ebalekile kumele uyikhumbule grade 12 ukuthi in a chemical reaction, the reacted part will form your product. And in a chemical reaction, if you have an impure substance, it's only the pure part that will form your product. That's what you need to always remember. This is the formula of the percentage purity. It's the pure part of the substance because ufuna ukubona ukuthi i-percentage engakanani there is pure. Remember, the only reason in numerator ku pure part is ngoba sifuna ukubala ini i-percentage purity. So that is why our numerator starts with pure part and divide by the mass of the sample. The pure part of the impure substance, our main question bekuwukuthi uzoyibala kanjani? Say, you are saying let us ignore the mass that they are giving us. But how will you find the mass of this impure or of the pure part? You will do stoichiometry sakho. But kanjani? They will have to give you this. If they give you the impure substance, grade 12, then they have to give you information of a product that will be formed. They have to give you information of a product that will be formed. They have to give you that. Now, what does that mean? It means you will start from the products that you are given and you will work backwards and find any reactant. And the reactant musibala uzothola pure part. Why we pure parts lo itholayo? Ingoba le product could only be formed by the pure part of that particular reactant. So that is why you work backwards. Uthi le reactant eforma le product engabe imass engakanani yayo that formed this particular product. It's very simple. Or maybe ngakunika ngeproduct bazokunika ini. I got you. It's very simple. They will give you information of the other reactant. Angithi unama reactant amabili la or 3 depending. And ile impure ikhona nenye phela bazokunika yona. So you will be using the information of the other reactant to calculate for this impure reactant using your stoichiometric calculations, and then you will get the pure parts. Ingakho sithi lana you can work out the pure parts by using the other reactant. So you need to be very careful about this particular calculation. Ngoba they will give you this mass and I'm saying ignore it and find another information and calculate the mass of that particular impure substance. Let us look at it in this way. Let us say they're giving you this particular question. Okay. Now, this is the question from the May-June paper 2025 under question 7. Again, it has the information as but let us look at what we are given and what we know for now. Let us use the concept, grade 12. In an experiment, so they are making a particular experiment, Ilana, you are told, Guti, 1.5 grams of powdered impure calcium. Are you with me? So this mass that they're giving you, it's the mass of the impure calcium. What does it mean? Ignore the mass. Don't use it to calculation. Why? Because not all of that 1.5 will react. But why? How will I find as a reactor? They will give you other information also. Let us continue reading. It is reacted with 200 centimeter cubed, which is the volume, of a 0.15 mole per decimeter cubed of hydrochloric acid. Aha. I know you now see what we are talking about. They are giving you another reactant. Then you will use the information of this particular reactant and work backward to find this particular reactant. But what will you find? Now, when you are using this reactant to find the calcium carbonate, you will find the pure part of it. You will find the pure part of it using just the information from HCl, which will cover acids and bases. Now, if also na pure part, it means you can now calculate the to percentage purity. Pure part, it makes of a sample of the ignore. Then you get 7 marks just by doing this easy calculation. Now let us look at a question from a physical sciences KZN March 2025 paper. It was written last year in March. Now let us read the statement so that we can understand what is happening. Okay, when making an ester, so we are forming an ester, 60 grams of propan 1-ol react. They are giving you in Ilana a mass of propan 1-ol, which is a react. Now what is it reacting with? It is reacting with excess ethanoic acid. Now, from this statement alone, You are happy because, oh, if this ethanoic acid is in excess, it means upropan 1-ol uyini uyi-limiting. It works like that. One reactant will be excess, then the other one will be the limiting. What does it mean ukuthi limiting? For now, we are thinking all this mass will react. But let us continue reading. It will produce 90.78 grams of ester. That is the mass of the product that we are sure it is being produced. This is the balance equation. Remember, from the balance equation, you take out a mole ratio. And you are always happy as learners when you read the word balance equation. You don't even have to check it is balanced. You trust them. You then take out the mole ratio by taking the coefficient of each and every substance that is here. Shuthi mole ratio yalana izothini? Izothi 1 is to 1 is to 1 is to 1. Now, what is the calculation saying? It says calculate the percentage purity of propan 1-ol. Aha! Now they are getting us with that particular instruction. Remember, we were given 60 grams of propan 1-ol. But bacha sibaleni percentage purity. What does that mean? It means loya 60 grams awukho pure wonke. Bacha sibaleni ukuthi iphathe ngakanani out of the 60 that was pure. What does that mean? Ignore the 60. Ignore. Because once you put it and you perform a calculation using layer 60, it will then be incorrect. Now let's work on a solution of this particular problem. We are given 90.78 of an ester. Let me look for my pen. We are given a Messier ester. So we are given a Messier lana uguti yubani U90.78. It goes with what we said to Guma slides. They can give you a product and want you to work backwards. That is exactly what we are going to do here. But you still have to remember a mole ratio. 1 is to 1 is to 1 is to 1. Now, there are 60 grams. This is on la. No, do not write that 60 because we are not using that 60. So this is a percentage purity. So now you have a mass. Yeah, C5, H10, O2. Sizobala ini ama number of moles. Why are we calculating ama number of moles? So that it can be easy to move with the mole ratio, because the mole ratio will work if we have a number of moles. Negama liyazisho i mole ratio. So you will calculate, you will say, okay, I think Aleng molar mass, because when you are given a mass, you can find the number of moles by taking a mass and dividing it by molar mass. So as molar mass of C5, H10, O2. This is where your periodic table will come in handy. I have it with me. This is my periodic table, and I hope you guys brought your periodic table with you too, so that you can perform these calculations. Now, on your periodic table, you look for lapayana atomic mass ya carbon. It is 12, but ama atoms of carbon is now lana 5. So you need to remember when you are doing a molar mass, batabam, uguti, periodic table, that atomic mass that is written, it's only for one atom. But lana sinama atoms amangagi 5. Ukusho ukuthi le lapha periodic table, sekumele siyi multiply ngo5 because as over correct here. So it will be 5 times ubani u12. So usuqedile ngocarbon usuyo eda eyabani eya hydrogen. Uyahamba uyobuka hydrogen for one atom uno 1, but lo 1 mele umthambiso ngobani ngo10 because lana una 10 atoms of hydrogen. So it will be 10 times 1. And then evakalokhu usuyo eda eyabani eya oxygen. So since unama elements are 3, it means uzo-eda izinto eziwu-3 futhi nakwi molar mass yakho. So musu eda ku-oxygen laphaya uzoba no-16 times u2 ngoba ama-atoms alo oxygen mabili. Now usucalculate i-molar mass yakho. This will give you u60. This will give you u10. So here you will get 60. And then here you will get ubani u10. And then here you will get ubani u32. So if you add all 3 of them, you will find ukuthi molar mass yakho yubani u102 grams per mole. So this is the molar mass. Now, what do you do from this molar mass? You find number of moles. Number of moles abani acid yethu that was formed. So number of moles is equal to a mass all over a molar mass. Ubani mass U90,78. Ubani molar mass U102. Let me grab my calculator so that I can work with you guys. Okay, now I have my calculator. We can now do a calculation. 90,78 divided by 102. It means mangakanana moles that were formed 0,89 moles. But however, the number of moles are formed again, our ester that is formed. But nakufunakalani a percentage purity. Why did we start here? We started from a product so that we can work back and find ukuthi ingakanani part a pure that was able to form this particular product. So let us work backwards. So sebenza ngani working backwards? Sizosebenza ngama number of moles kanye ne mole ratio. Now ithini mole ratio between upropan 1-ol kanye ne ester. I-mole ratio yabo ithi 1:1. Sesiyayibhala phansi ngoba ibalekile. We start on a new page here. We say i-mole ratio ithi 1:1. Okusho ukuthi njengoba singawazi ama number of moles angala, but siyawazi we product ukuthi awu 0,89. We can now cross multiply ukuthola ama number of moles propane 1-ol that's actually reacted. So when you cross multiply, you will find okay, X will then be equal to 0,89 moles as well. We are almost there. Now, what are we looking for? We are looking for the mass so that we can have the pure mass. Our next step will be find the molar mass of CH3H7OH. So a molar mass. Now usuyazi ukuthi senze njani. We will say sizothatha u12 simmultiply ngobani ngo3 uphinde uthathe bani u7 ummultiply ngo1 uphinde uthathe bani u16 ummultiply ngo1 because it is just one atom of oxygen. In fact umuthanda this H you can include it on that H so that uzoba no hydrogen about 8 angithi no hydrogen about 7 la uphinde ube no OH here and C3 la. So omunye can say njengoba kuno H about 7 la nango omunye H oyedwa shuthi lana kahle kahle ngizoba no C3 H8 O. Uyabona kuzoba lula ukuthi uyibale lapha yana futhi molar mass. So shuthi uzotimes lapha yana u1 umtimes ngobani ngo8 uphinde uthathe u16 njengoba unjalo ngoba you only have one atom of oxygen. Asibaleni very fast. 12 times 3 plus 8 plus 16. It means the molar mass ya propan 1-ol izoba ubani u60 grams per mole. Sesifuna inthini i-mass. Uyazi ukuthi i-mass is equal to number of moles times i-molar mass of a particular substance. Shuthi ubani pure mass? I-pure mass say will be 0,89, not this 0,89, but this 0,89 ngoba sesifocus kwi-alcohol ngqo. Bese uyi times ngo60. It means the mass that was pure is only 53,4 grams. 53,4 grams out of 60 grams that you had. So now you can see why bebuzi percent. Only 53,4 reacted out of 60. So now if we find a test, uthole 53,4 out of 60 lo kade unaye initial okanye okade kuyi-total ye-test. Shuthi percent izolithola kanjani? Sekulula kakhulu ucela ukusqueeze in here. Suzothi wena then percentage purity will then be the pure part which is 53,6 all over the total which is ubani u60 ngoba ufuna i-percent mele uthamze ngobani ngo100. Then you done, you get 7 marks. So 53,4 Usumdivider ngo-60, times ngo-100. It means it was only 89% that was pure. Straight from our slide ethu ukuthi you use the information of the product and work backwards. Ungawuthathi lo ya 60 ngoba immediately uthatha u60 uya ngawo ngaphambili, you are already assuming lo ya 60 will react, which is not true because it's impure. Now let us look at the next section. Mr. Mtiane will then continue with the next information.
Okay, welcome again, students. Don't forget to sign the register. In case when you arrive late, I'm Mr. Mtiane. I will be taking you through the products since Mr. Zulu went through the reactants. Okay, then the products, what are the products? The product is what is being produced in a chemical reaction. So whenever you are performing a chemical reaction, you have the reactants and also you have what? The products. For example, if H2 hydrogen as a gas reacts with oxygen as a gas, then will give you water, H2O, which is a liquid. Then this H2O is a product. So I will be dealing with products, with what is formed after the two or more reactants is being reacted. Okay, then products can be separated into two. So the product can be an actual yield or it can be a theoretical yield. Then students, what is the difference between the two? What is the difference between the actual yield as well as the theoretical yield? Okay, the actual yield is what is being produced when we are doing a reaction. For example, if you are doing a reaction in a laboratory, then you will get an actual yield. The actual yield is considering that maybe there are some leftovers in a crucible or in any material that you are using in a laboratory. It's considering the fact that there will be some loss of products when we are doing the reaction. But the theoretical yield, it's what you get when you are performing the calculations. Then when you are performing the calculations, you will get the theoretical yield. Is the amount of the product that is expected to be produced using balanced chemical equation. So when you are doing your calculations, you get what? The theoretical yield, that's what is expected. But in a laboratory, you will get what? The actual yield. So the actual yield is likely to be less than the actual yield. Is likely to be less than the theoretical yield. Because the theoretical yield is the one that you perform using calculation. It doesn't consider any losses that might happen in laboratory. Okay, then when you do calculations, as I've indicated, what you get is a theoretical yield. Okay, then here is a graph of products. How would I know that this graph is a graph of the products? I know because this graph starts from 0. Initially, we do not have the products. We just have the reactants only. So now, if it starts at 0, I know this graph is for the products. If it's for the reactants, Mr. Zulu have shown the one for reactants, it starts from something and decreases. But for the product, it starts from 0 and increases. Then it shows that the products are being formed as the reaction progresses. Then when the line becomes straight like this, it means that the reaction has reached its completion or the reaction has stopped. So if the reaction stops, it means that there is a reactant that is being used up, which is a limiting reagent. The limiting reagent is used up. Okay, this is the graph for the mass of oxygen. That means in this reaction that was performed, the product this was expected to be formed was oxygen. And this is a Oxygen, which is formed at 3 seconds, it was 0.4. Then at 9 seconds, it was 0.6. Then at 20 seconds, it was 0.8 grams. And at time t seconds, then it was 0.9. This is the time that the reaction reaches its completion, or it is the time that the limiting reagent it is used up, because it's where the line begins to become straight. Then in this portion, there is no reaction that is taking place because the limiting reagent is already used up in this reaction. All right, let's continue. Then here we talked about actual yield, theoretical yield. Then what is a yield? A yield in physics is the amount of the product formed during the chemical reaction is called yield. So the amount of the product here on the graph, we saw the formation of oxygen. Then that yield was the production of that oxygen. It is a yield. Yield is what is formed. As we see here, there is a reaction of hydrogen and oxygen. Then it forms what? It forms water. Then water is regarded as yield. Why water is regarded as yield? Because it's what is being produced from the chemical reaction. Okay. That means the theoretical and the actual yield, it's what's being produced. The actual is what is being produced in the lab, and the theoretical is what is being produced when you are doing your calculation. Then let us look at the percentage yield. What we are looking when we are looking at the percentage yield, we are looking at what is formed versus what is expected to be formed. Here is the formula for calculating the percentage yield. What is formed, that is actual yield, and the theoretical yield, it's what is expected to be formed. Because whenever we are doing calculation, we are assuming what is expected to be formed. That is your theoretical yield. Then the actual yield, it's what is formed actually in a laboratory. Okay, then theoretical yield is one that is calculated in your balance equation, as I've been indicated. Then this is a nice hint that you must know. Whenever you are doing your calculation for the product, you always calculate what? The theoretical yield. Then the actual yield is likely to be given because it's one that is performed in laboratory, not using the calculations. Okay, and when we are calculating the reactant, you are calculating the pure part or the part that is reacted. As Mr. Zul has indicated that whenever the product is being formed, the product is formed from what is pure or what is reacted, not the one that was present initially. From what is the one that forms product, it's what is pure or what is reacted. Okay. Then let us move to our next slide. That is for an example. Okay, here there is an example. Let's read the example. Whenever you are reading the statement, just look for the important information and take note of that important information. Okay, let's start. A student reacts 5 grams of pure calcium carbonate. The moment I see that pure calcium carbonate, then now I know that calcium carbonate all these 5 grams of calcium carbonate will react completely. Why? Because it is pure. It's likely to react completely. Okay. What is reacting with calcium carbonate with excess hydrochloric acid? The word excess tells you that which one is a limiting reagent. That means calcium carbonate is a limiting reagent. That means calcium carbonate is the one that is going to be used up firstly in this chemical reaction because hydrochloric acid is in excess. So the one that will be used up is calcium carbonate, which is 5 grams of calcium carbonate will be used in this reaction. Let's continue with our statement. To produce calcium chloride. So my product will be calcium chloride carbon dioxide as well as water. So my products, I have 3 products in this reaction. It's calcium chloride, carbon dioxide as well as water. As you see in this reaction, I have calcium chloride, carbon dioxide as well as water. In my reactants, I had calcium carbonate as well as hydrochloric acid. Then you need to check because they said here this the balanced equation, so you know already this equation is balanced. If they haven't told you that the reaction is balanced, you need to check whether the reaction is balanced or not. If it is not balanced, then you balance the reaction before you perform your calculation. You do not perform the calculation without checking whether the reaction is balanced or not, because your calculations will be wrong if the reaction is not balanced. Okay, then after the reaction, now the reaction has completed. The student collects 1,08 grams of what? Of carbon dioxide. Now I know that in my product, the amount of carbon dioxide is 1,8 grams. That means I can indicate even here so that I will be not confused that 1,08 grams of carbon dioxide is produced. Then calcium carbonate is 5 grams that was used initially. I had 5 grams of calcium carbonate in my reactant and I produced 1,08 grams of carbon dioxide. Then let us look at the question. What is the question requires us to calculate? What is the percentage yield of carbon dioxide? What is the percentage yield of carbon dioxide? That means we are looking at the product which is carbon dioxide. What we have here, is it an actual yield or is it a theoretical yield? That one has been collected by the student. That means this one is an actual yield. This one is an actual yield that is collected by the student. Then you are required to calculate the theoretical yield. Okay, let us calculate the theoretical yield. Let us move to our next page with this information. Okay, we had 5 grams of calcium carbonate and 1,8 grams of carbon dioxide that was collected by the students. Okay, then what we need to do, we know that this reaction is balanced. We need to find the number of moles of calcium carbonate that has been reacted so that we will move with the number of moles and find the number of moles that were expected to be produced of carbon dioxide. Okay, let us calculate the number of moles. Before we're calculating the number of moles, we need to look for the molar mass of calcium carbonate. We are looking for the molar mass of calcium carbonate, CaCO3. Then you must use your periodic table. Calcium is 40, then I have 1 atom of calcium, that's 40 multiplied by 1. Then the molar mass of carbon is 12. I have 1 carbon multiplied by 1. Multiplied by 1. Then the molar mass of oxygen is 16. 16 multiplied by how many atoms of oxygen is 3. Then the molar mass will be 40. 40 multiplied by 1 is 40. Plus 12 multiplied by 1 is 12. Then 16 multiplied by 3. 16, 32, and okay, we will have, let me use 16, 32, and 14. So that will be fast. 16 times 3. That is 48. 48. Okay, then when we add this, 48 plus 40 plus 12, this gives you 100 grams per mole. Do not forget to include units. This is the molar mass of calcium carbonate. Then from the molar mass of calcium carbonate, let us look for the number of moles of calcium carbonate. Number of moles is equal to the mass divided by the molar mass. The mass of calcium carbonate is 5. Then the molar mass of calcium carbonate is 100. Then what is the answer? 5 divided by 100. It gives you 0.05 mole. This is 0.05 mole. That is the number of moles of calcium carbonate. So we need to move with this number of moles of calcium carbonate from here, calcium carbonate, from here, calcium carbonate to where? To look for the number of moles of carbon dioxide that was expected to be produced. Okay, let us look at the ratio. The ratio here is what? Is 1. Let me use different color so that you will be able to see it clearly. It's 1 is to 2 is to 1 is to 1 is to 1. So which one we are focusing on? We are focusing on the ratio of calcium carbonate as well as carbon dioxide. Okay, I have 1:1 ratio, 1:1 ratio. Then the number of moles of calcium carbonate is 0.05. Then the number of moles of carbon dioxide is, let me put X, because I don't know the number of moles of carbon dioxide. Then after that, I will cross multiply. Then 1 multiplied by X is X. Then 1 multiplied by 0.05, it's 0.05 mole. Now, these moles that are written in red now are the number of moles of carbon dioxide. This number of moles are the moles of carbon dioxide. This one written in black was the number of moles of calcium carbonate. So now I have the number of moles of carbon dioxide written in red, as well as I can calculate the molar mass of carbon dioxide to find the mass was expected to be produced of carbon dioxide. Because what I'm doing here, I'm calculating the theoretical yield, what is expected to be produced here. Okay. Then let me find the mass. Mass is equal to the number of moles multiplied by the molar mass. Okay, the number of moles of carbon dioxide is 0.05 multiplied by the molar mass. Okay, what is the molar mass of carbon dioxide? So the molar mass of carbon dioxide is 44. But let me show where do I get this 44. The molar mass of carbon dioxide, I will say molar mass of carbon dioxide is equal to carbon, the molar mass of one carbon atom is 12 multiplied by 1 plus 16 multiplied by 2. So then 12 plus 32. 12 plus 32 is give you 44 grams per mole. So this is the molar mass of carbon dioxide, which is this one I've written here, which is 44. Okay, then let's find the mass. It's 44 multiplied by 0.05, which gives you 2.2 grams. Now unit is grams because I'm looking for the mass. Now I have the mass. This mass is a mass of carbon dioxide. Is it a theoretical or it's an actual? It is a theoretical yield. Why it is a theoretical? Because it's the one that was expected to be produced, not actually produced. What is the mass that is actually produced? Was given on the statement is 1.8. That one is actually produced. Okay, let's find the percentage purity. Let me remind you the formula for percentage yield. Percentage yield is equal to the actual yield. One that is produced, actual yield. Let me erase here so that I will have enough space of writing this calculation and use a different color so that you will follow. Now I'm calculating the percentage yield. Okay, the actual yield divided by the theoretical yield. Actual yield divided by theoretical yield. Because I'm looking for the percentage, I have to multiply by 100. Okay, what is the actual yield? The actual yield is 1,8. That was given on the statement. Then the theoretical yield is 2,2. That was calculated using the mole ratio. Then multiply by 100. Then what is the answer? 1,8 divided by 2,2 multiplied by 100. The answer is 81,82%. It's 81,82%. That means what is produced versus what is expected to be produced. The percentage yield, it is 81,82. I hope you get this calculation. Firstly, we calculated the number of moles of calcium carbonate, which is 0,05. Then we moved with the number of moles to find the number of moles of carbon dioxide. Then we find this to be 0,05. Then we find the mass that was expected to be produced, which is a theoretical yield. Then after having the theoretical yield, we will say percentage yield is the actual yield divided by the theoretical yield. The actual yield is the one that is produced in laboratory. Then the theoretical yield is the one that you get when you are performing your calculations. Then the answer was 81.82%. Then let's move on. Okay, the percentage yield can be asked using that mole ratio, or you can calculate using the empirical formula, or can be asked using the molecular formula. Okay, then let us elaborate what is an empirical formula and what is a molecular formula. We will start by looking at the empirical formula. And how do we calculate the empirical formula? Then what is the empirical formula? Empirical formula is the simplest whole number ratio. It is the simplest whole number ratio of the atoms of each element present in one molecule or formula unit of the compound. So we are representing that organic compound, but in a simplest whole number ratio. So normally we are asked to determine the empirical formula. We are often given the percentage composition. So in your statement, you will be given the percentage composition. Then they ask you to find the empirical formula of the atoms that are present in that compound or the molecule. Okay. Then we can use the following table method. There is a table that is shown in our next slides. This table we will use to calculate the ratio, the empirical formula. So for getting the empirical formula, we need to know the ratio of each element in that molecule. For example, if I have compound that have carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, then I need to know the ratio of carbon and the ratio of hydrogen, and I need to know the simplest whole number of oxygen. Maybe it can be written as, if it's CH2O, that means carbon, the number of carbon, the simplest whole number ratio of carbon is 1, then the one for all hydrogen is 2, and the one for oxygen is also 1. Then let's look at this numbers, but we will do the calculation that involve this table. Here, if they say in grams, this is the mass of each element that you are given here. So firstly, you need to find the mass of each element that is being given here. Then you write it here, the mass of carbon dioxide, the mass of hydrogen, as well as the mass of oxygen. Okay, after that, what you do? After having the masses, 3 masses, then you move to calculate what? The number of moles. How do we calculate the number of moles? Now you know, guys, the number of moles, it is the mass over the molar mass. Where do you get this mass? Here, on the first column. Then where do you get the molar mass? On your periodic table. For example, the molar mass of carbon is 12. Then you put 12. Then the mass of carbon, you will write it here because you will have the mass of carbon. Same thing applies to hydrogen as well as oxygen. But we'll see when we are doing the calculation of empirical formula, with how this table is being used. Then after that, you will have the number of moles. Don't forget to include units when you are calculating the number of moles, because here you calculate the number of moles and it has units. You must include units in each of the mole of an element that is being calculated. Then you look for the smallest number across all these 3 number of moles. After you find the smallest number, you divide by the smallest number. Then you divide by the smallest number, you divide by the smallest number, you divide by the smallest number. Then you get what? The numbers that are whole numbers. If you get a number that is not a whole number now, here I've written the numbers that are whole numbers. But if maybe when I'm dividing, I will get a number here that is 2,2. Here maybe I get 1, let's say 1,8. This is not a whole number, and also this one is not a whole number. If you have this number, it is when you need to round off. Whenever you are round offing, you must look whether the number is below 5, that is after a comma, or is above 5. This number here after a comma, let me use different color so that you will see. This number after a comma here is 2, and 2 is less than 5. So 2 is less than 5, then we are going to write down 2 will become 0. Then your answer will be 2 as a whole number. Then here, it's 1,8. This 8 after a comma is above 5. Since this number 8 is above 5, it will become 1. Then 1 will be added to 1 and have 2. That means this one and this one will be 2 and 2. But initially was not the same. This one was 2,2, but it was rounded down. This one it is 1,8, but it's rounded up because 8 is greater than 5, but here 2 is less than 5. But there is an exception. The exception is when you get a number that is 1,5. If you get a number that is 1,5, you do not round up. Yes, we said that if the number is less than 5, you round down. If it is greater than 5, you round up. But here it is equal to 5. The number after a comma is equal to 5. Then what do? You multiply by a factor that will give you the whole number. Here it's 1,5. If I multiply by 2, 2 is a factor. That will give me the whole number. If I say 1,5 multiplied by 2, it will give me 3. And this 3 is a whole number. But if I had a number like this, then I've multiplied by 2 in this number. I have to multiply all the numbers by 2. I have to multiply the number of carbon. I have to multiply the number of hydrogen. If oxygen was the one with 1,5. So if you multiply one number, then you must multiply all the numbers so that you will get your ratio correct. Okay, let's move to our next slide. In our next slide, we are looking at the molecular formula. The molecular formula, it is the actual number of the atoms that are present, not the simplest whole number ratio, as being indicated here. Molecular formula, it is the actual number. It is the actual number of an atom of each element present in a molecular formula of the compound. For example, let me give you an example. If I have C4H8, this is a molecular formula, C4H8. This C4H8, it shows that the number of carbons here, there are 4 number of carbons, there are 4 carbons, and here there are 8 hydrogen. But if I can write this using an empirical formula, if I can divide by 4 each number here, I will have C will give me CH2. This CH2, it is the empirical formula. This 2, it is an empirical formula because it is the simplest whole number ratio of this molecular formula. The molecular formula was C4H8. That means the correct number of atoms, carbon, there were 4, hydrogen, there were 8. Here is not the correct number because now I have hydrogen, that is 2, and carbon, that is 1. This one, it is the simplest whole number, right? But it shows the correct format of the organic compound that was given, which is C4H8. Then if you want to go back from empirical formula to a molecular formula, you need to multiply. Remember, we divided by 4. So you need to multiply by 4 to go back to the molecular formula. Because if I multiply here there is 1. If I multiply 4 times 1, it will give me 4. And 4 times 2 will give me 8. That means that factor will give me the actual number of atoms that are present in a formula of the compound. Okay. Then to determine the molecular formula, you have to know the empirical formula. Now I know the empirical formula, it's CH2. Then if I have that factor, I will multiply and get the molecular formula. So it is important to know the empirical formula because you will need the empirical formula to find the molecular formula. Okay, so that is hence in our previous table will be useful for us because it will assist us to get what? To get the empirical formula. Then we move with an empirical formula to get what? The molecular formula. Okay, after determining the empirical formula, you can calculate the molar mass of the empirical formula. So whenever we are moving, we will move with the molar mass of that empirical formula. Okay, then to get a molecular formula, you have to compare what factor you could multiply your empirical formula, molar mass, what factor will multiply the empirical formula to get the molecular mass. Okay, then you multiply your empirical formulas atoms with that factor that you get to get what? The correct number of the molecular formula. As I've indicated in the previous slide, if I have CH2, that means I have 1 carbon and 2 hydrogen. And maybe I got my factor as 4. My factor is 4. That means I have to multiply each atom by what? By 4. Here there is 1. So I would say C1 multiplied by 4. This 4 is a factor that I get from comparing the molecular formula of the empirical formula as well as the actual organic compound. And H is 2 multiplied by 4. This 4 that I'm multiplying with, it is a factor. It is a factor. Okay, then what is the answer? The answer here is C4H8. Now this is the molecular formula. This is the molecular formula. that is taken from the empirical formula. This was the empirical formula. This is the empirical formula. So, this is an empirical formula. This is a molecular formula. Okay, now we're gonna have the calculation example of finding the molecular formula from the empirical formula. Okay, here we have an example that is taken from grade 12 physical sciences, March 2020, which is question 5.3. Here, let's us read the statement together. The statement, it says, one of the organic reactions above is made up. This means it's 5.3. This question starts from 5.1, 5.2. Then we have just extracted 5.3 because we need 5.3 to do to show you how to calculate the molecular formula from the empirical formula. One of the organic reactants above is made up of 54.55% of carbon. I'm noting the atom that I have here. Firstly, I will have what? Carbon, C. The percentage of carbon is 54.55 and 36.36 of what? Of oxygen and hydrogen. But I'm not given the percentage of hydrogen. If you are not given the percentage of a certain atom, you need to find it. How am I going to find the percentage of hydrogen? I know that the percentage is add up to 100. So I will say to find the percentage of hydrogen is equal to 100 minus the percentage of carbon, which is 54.55, minus the percentage of oxygen, which is 36.36. Then I guess the answer will be 9.09%. Let me double check. 100 minus 54.55 minus 36.36. Yes, the answer is 9.09%. Now I have the percentage of what? Of hydrogen, which is 9.09%. Now I have all the percentage. I have all what I need. Then let me continue the statement. If the molar mass of this compound is 88, they are giving you the molar mass of what? We are giving you the molar mass of the actual compound. That's the compound that you are looking. The molecular formula is 88 grams per mole. It's molecular mass. Okay, then the question says, determine the molecular formula. I have the percentage composition of that atoms that are present in that organic compound. Then I'm looking for the molecular formula of that organic compound. Then let's move to our next page so that we'll plug this in our table. Here is our table again. I have carbon, I have hydrogen, as well as oxygen. But here I have the mass in grams, not the mass in percentages. But in my previous slide, I have the mass I have the percentage composition. So I need to convert these percentages to what? To grams. How do you convert these percentages to grams? Then in the table, you assume that the percentage is out of hundreds, or the mass is out of hundreds. Let's convert carbon. The mass of carbon will be carbon is equal to 54 divided by 54.55 divided by 100. This 100 I'm dividing, it is the sum of these three numbers. If you add these three numbers, which is in percentage, you will get what? 100. So it's 54 over 100. 100 is the total. Then we multiply by 100 grams, or which is the mass. Then I will get 54.55 grams. That is the mass of carbon. Then same thing applies to the mass of oxygen. It will be 36.36 divided by 100 multiplied by 100 grams. This 100 is for a total. This is for converting to a mass. Then the mass of oxygen will be 36,36 grams. Don't forget to include units. Then the last one is hydrogen, mass of hydrogen. It will be 9,09 divided by 100, which is the total, multiplied by 100, which is the total of the mass. Then will give me 9.09 grams. Then I have all the masses. I can plug it in my table. Okay, the one for hydrogen is 9.09. The one for hydrogen is 9,09. And the one for carbon is 54.55. It's 54,55. Then the one for oxygen is 36.36. Then this is 36.36. Now I have my information in my table. Then we calculate the number of moles as we indicated here that we are looking for the moles first, number of moles first. It will be 54,55 divided by the molar mass of carbon, which is 12. 54,55 divided by 12. Then the answer will be 4,55. 4,55 mole. Don't forget to include units. Here in hydrogen, we have 9,09. Then the molar mass of hydrogen is 1. Then it will be 9,09 mole. That is the moles of hydrogen. Then lastly, which is oxygen, will be 36,36 divided by 16, which is the molar mass of oxygen. Then 36,36 divided by 16. The answer will be 2,27 moles. Then after getting these moles, we look for the smallest number of moles. I've seen here that the smallest number of moles that I have here is what? Is 2,27 moles. That means I will divide by 2,27 across. Then it will be 4,55 divided by 2,27. Here it's 9,09 divided by 2,27. Here is 36,36 divided by 2, not 36,36, it's 2,27. Sorry about that. So it's 2,27 divided by 2,27. Then 2,27 divided by 2,27, the answer is 1. Then 9.09 divided by 2,27, then the answer is 4,00. Then I'll write 4. Then on the other one is 4,55 divided by 2,27, then the answer will be 2,00. I will write 2. Then my ratio is 2 is to 4 is to 1. That means the number of carbon atoms is C2H4, then O. C2H4. That is the simplest whole number ratio, which is the empirical formula. Then now we get the empirical formula. So, but the question was not asking us the empirical formula. It's looking for the molecular formula. So let us move from the empirical formula to the molecular formula. Firstly, you need to find the molar mass of the empirical formula. So that is the molar mass of C2H4O. That is empirical formula. Then how many carbon atoms? I have 2. That means it's 2 multiplied by 12 plus 1 multiplied by 4 plus 16, because we have only 1 oxygen. Then 12 multiplied by 2, it is 24 plus 4 multiplied by 1 is 4 plus 16. Then 16 plus 4, that is 20. plus 24 is 44 grams per mole. It's grams per mole because we are calculating the molar mass. Now we have the molar mass of the empirical formula and the molar mass of the actual compound, which is 88 grams per mole. That was given in our statement. Then we're going to look for the factor that I was talking about. The factor that you are going to, you multiply the empirical formula to get the actual molecular formula. So the factor will be, let me use N and use different color. N will be equal to molecular formula, molar mass of the actual compound, which is 88, divided by the molar mass of the empirical formula, which is C2H4O. That is for empirical formula. Then I will have 88 divided by 44. Then 88 divided by 44, the answer is 2. That means the factor that I'm going to use, or that's the factor that I'm going to multiply my atoms in empirical formula to get a molecular formula is 2. Let's multiply. Then this will be, let me write it here. It's C2 multiplied by what? Multiplied by 2. 2 is the factor. H4 multiplied by what? Multiplied by 2, which is the factor. And O, 1 multiplied by 2. Then I'm multiplying each atom with this factor of what? Of 2. Then the answer will be C4 H8 O2. This is our molecular formula. This is our molecular formula that the question was requiring us to calculate. They say calculate the molecular formula. Then now we have what? We have the molecular formula. This is how we use this table of the empirical formula to find what? The molecular formula. Okay, let's move to our next slide. Also in the next slide, we are given now the empirical formula. In our previous example, we were asked to calculate the molecular formula, but we were not given the empirical formula. But here we are given the empirical formula. Guys, if you are given this empirical formula, then this question is easy. So what you need to do, you need to find the molar mass of the empirical formula. Then after finding the molar mass of the empirical formula, you find the ratio that you are going to use to multiply each atoms here to find the molecular mass that is required here. Okay, now compound S has an empirical formula of C3H6O and a molecular mass. Now we are given also the molecular mass of the actual compound that is 116 grams per mole. As we are going to look at the molar mass of what? Of empirical formula. Let's look at the molar mass of empirical formula, which is C3H6O. Then it's 12 multiplied by 3 plus 6 multiplied by 1 plus 16 multiplied by 1 again. Okay, then 12 multiplied by 3 will be 36 plus 6 plus 16. Then I have 36 plus 6 plus 16. That will give me 58. That's 58 grams per mole. This 58 grams per mole is the molar mass of what? Of the empirical formula. Then I have the molar mass of the empirical formula and the molar mass of the molecular mass of the actual compound. Then I will look for the factor that I will use to multiply. The factor is the molar mass of the actual compound divided by the molar mass of the empirical formula, which is C3 here, H6 O. Then the molar mass here is what? Is 116. 88 was the one from our previous example. Then it's 116 divided by 58. Then 116 divided by 58, the answer is 2. Oh, we got the same factor. Even here, the answer is 2. Then we are going to use this 2 and multiply. Each atoms here will be C3 multiplied by 2, H6 multiplied by 2, O1 multiplied by 2. Then the answer is C6, H12, O2. Then here is the molecular formula that was asked to calculate of this carboxylic acid. Then I hope you know the name, the IUPAC name of this carboxylic acid. Okay. Then now Mr. Zulu will take over and address the limiting reagent as well as the reagent that is in excess.
Thank you. Now we are looking at the limiting and excess reactants, but we're looking at the calculations. Now at the beginning, we've done it for graphs, but here we're just going to talk about how can we do it for the calculations and wrapping up of our lesson. Okay. So when 2 or more reactants are reacting, it might happen that one reactant is used up completely while the other one is still remaining. Now you need to understand a simple concept, grade 12. Immediately you talk about the limiting. Immediately you talk about the limiting. This just implies it's limiting something. Something from what? From reacting so that they can form even more products. So once they tell you there's a limiting reactant, it means the other reactant will have to be excess because it was limited by the reactant that is the limiting. And when they talk about the excess reactant, it means there's a reactant that was the limiting in this particular question. So the examiners might not say to you, this one is limiting and this one is excess. They will just tell you this one is excess. Or they will give you a graph that shows that. And they will ask you which one is limiting. So if you are only having 2 reactants and they're giving you one that is in excess, it means the other reactant is limiting. If they give you the one that is limiting, it means the other one is in excess. So you need to understand that not both these words will be said. Okay. Once that one reactant is used up, then the reaction stops. We did do that graphically. We are just emphasizing that point, that the reaction stops when our reactants are complete, if one of the reactant is completely used up. Okay, since the reaction has stopped, it then means that there are no more products being formed. And that is why on the graph of products, it will be a constant line that is not changing. And then on the graph of reactants, it will be a constant line that is not changing. Okay. Now the reactant that is completely used up, so we've already alluded to this one. These are the steps so that we pick up from the steps when we are calculating the limiting reactant. So here, our discussion is based. What if they give you the mass for both reactants and they say nothing? They can say 50 grams of this reacts with 40 grams of that, and they say nothing. So you need to perform a calculation to determine which reactant was the limiting. And also remember, student, to fill in the register so that you can be captured correctly on the system. So these are the steps you can use to determine the limiting reactant. And we want you to write these steps down so that on our next calculation, we begin with these steps. You balance the equation first. You write down the mole ratio because the equation is balanced. You just take the coefficient to write down the mole ratio. And they will give you initial information. You will convert that given information to number of moles. Then step 4, this is the most important step. So that is why we have to do examples together so that you can understand it. Because this is where you assume one reactant and calculate how much you need from the other reactant. This is the most critical part because it is the part that want you now to perform a certain calculation. And then after that, you will do what? You will compare. After comparing, you will conclude. Okay, so let us look at what we've done already. So this is what we've done in summary. We have defined what a reactant is. We have given a basic definition, but we also have given a calculating part of the reactant, which one you use for the calculation. Remember, the reactant is what you begin with in a reaction. A reaction, when the time is 0, the reactant they start from inambhenga phezulu, whereas the product will start from 0. We've also specified the difference between limiting reactant as well as the excess reactant. But we've only specified using graphical information and theoretical information. And right now we need to prove using a calculation ukuthi yiphi a limiting between two reactants that may be given. Now you know how to perform calculation when given information of the limiting and excess reactant. When you're given a limiting, you will calculate the reactant mass. If you're given the mass information, you'll calculate the reactant number of moles if you are given the number of moles information, and you'll calculate the reactant concentration if you are given the concentration information. You just have to remember number of moles that's reacted. It is initial moles minus the final moles. And for the limiting, the final moles ajwayele ukuba bani aba u0 ngoba injani yona iyaphela yonke in a reaction. Whereas ku excess you subtract a number that is not ubani u0. We've also showed you how to calculate the percentage purity because it's tricky. Ngoba bayakunika imess yayo and thina we are used ukuthi mesinikwa imess mele sibale ngayo. Kanti ku-purity uma bekunika imess yento impure, you have to ignore that mass and calculate the mass of that particular reactant, which will then represent the pure part of that particular reactant. And we have even showed you the percentage yield. They are almost related. That student, they confuse them, but they are very different. Percentage purity, you are checking how pure your substance is. Percentage yield, you are checking how much did you yield in a chemical reaction. Because a high yield will represent the reaction that is efficient. Even if you are producing a product, you'll be comfortable in producing it. Ngoba, it is a high yield percentage. Kanti if it is a low yield, it shows ukuthi a percentage yakhona incane, which means more materials that goes into waste than producing the actual products that we need. We've also concluded with the empirical formula as well as the molecular formula of the compound. We hope everything that we've said in this lesson you have understood, and everything that you need clarity on, go rewatch this video on YouTube, comment, we will answer and attend to the comments as we were doing with the Q&A sessions. Thank you.